Hi, Cynthia. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah.
What a great cause. Finally, somebody figured it out. That little girls need to be diagnosed early. I came across it on LinkedIn and I instantly was hooked. It spoke to me immediately. I need to repost this. I need to cheer on this person. What you're doing is great.
So you right away decided I needed to write a letter?
What's funny is I've never written a letter to my younger self. I never thought to do that until you invited me to do that. I stumbled a little bit, to be honest. I was like, oh my gosh, what will I say to little Jennifer? But I got through it. The letter that I wrote could have been 10 more pages long, to be honest. It could have been longer.
Did you have a certain age of yourself you were thinking about?
Primarily two ages, one when I was 7 or 8, and then as a teenager, where things get caught up because hormones are going all over the place. There's a lot of self-consciousness happening. There's a lot of comparison to peers. Those outside variables almost always contribute to any underlying dysregulation or disorder that might be going on. I stumbled through my teenage years not knowing that I had anxiety and ADHD. It made it that much more difficult. When I was little, I didn't have any skills. There was an innocence about it. I was grateful that I didn't really know. It wasn't until I got older that I was like, something's not right. Something's not right here. So write the letter to the little girl was she needed to hear that. It was a great opportunity.
You're saying writing the letter benefited you in some way.
I think it was very healing for me.
Can you say more about that?
I was in 6th grade where my 6th grade teacher recognized that I was smart. My parents had a parent-teacher conference and I thought I was going to get punished. I said, oh, I'm probably going to get punished. Let me wait to see what the bad things that the teacher has to say, only to find out that he saw me. He was like, she's really smart, but if she could only focus more. And that changed my whole life. I had never heard that before. Then in 8th grade, I made the honor roll. A student walked up behind me and said, I didn't know you were smart. It changed everything. I personally never acknowledged that struggle until I wrote that letter. It was hard for me. I must have wrote 10 different versions of that letter, Cynthia. That was really hard.
What you bring up is how we find a nugget of someone believing in us. For me, I went into the files of the school counselor and found out my IQ. That used to be what held me together, knowing I'm not doing so well, but I have this good IQ.
That's right.
Someone told me that when we have rejection sensitivity, it's on the downside, but it's also on the upside. If we hear something positive about ourselves, we can get really buoyant about it. As you're saying, being told that you were smart just changed a lot for you. You held on to it.
I'll never forget my 6th grade teacher's name. I'm 52 years old and I will remember my teacher. You made a good point. You go through life with all this rejection sensitivity. It is profound that only one small moment was all it took for me to change how I thought about myself and to work really hard to match and convince other people, hey, I'm smart. I'm a pretty good kid. But it was a struggle. I worked really hard until my master's program, when I was a grown adult, married with kids, till I was diagnosed. I know what that feels like to carry all of that as a little girl. You're going through it. You don't realize you're going through it until someone like Cynthia Hammer comes along and says, hey, why don't you take a look at this? And you go, okay.
I had 2 women that were younger who wanted to write the letters, and then they said they couldn't. It was too close for them. Some of our letter writers are older because they've known about their ADHD for a while, and they've coalesced how they feel about it. But even then, were there hurtful feelings as well?
It took me about 10 different versions of the letter because I sobbed. It's raw and it's honest. We don't often have an opportunity, or we forget that we were little. We forget to take a minute to be objective of our little selves. That little girl deserves affirmation and validation. I've had therapy, but it wasn't about that. Now I see a direct correlation to missteps in my adult life definitely were rooted from anxious weight and this, what I will call now, beautifully wired brain. That was emotional. So I can totally understand where other women got stuck writing this letter.
I wonder if you relate to this, that we put a lid on the hurt and just move on with our lives. Going back to write the letter, we're taking the lid off that hurt
Sure.
and re-experiencing it.
Yeah, for sure. Back in the 70s when I was a little kid, there wasn't therapy. Culturally, there was this stigma about it. I was little, so to say, hey, mom, dad, I'm feeling these things, or for them to even recognize it was not permitted on some weird level. I'm a psychotherapist, so I know, I always tell my patients, when you start therapy, it might get worse before it gets better. Like you just described, you're opening up Pandora's box. You're looking at something that you've repressed your whole life. Writing this letter, it did that. It opened up some stuff, but it was healing at the same time for me. It was like, wow, like this is great. This is what I needed. I have more work to do. And I'm acknowledging and embracing the fact that, yeah, although I had all of that stuff, I look at where I am now and I'm so grateful for that brain. It made me who I am today. Not to say that I don't struggle with it. I still have ADHD. Yeah, sometimes I laugh at my calendar like it personally offended me because I have bad days, but I get through it. So,
well, you're saying the letter writing brought up some new stuff for you, some new insights. Do you want to share any of those?
Sure. I went down the whole rabbit hole of sadness, acknowledging the pain that I went through as a little girl. But then it also acknowledged my fight, where I was able to overcome so many things. I look back and I go, how did that happen? Where did I get that from? I brought up other things, interactions, conflicts with people. Yeah, it definitely opened up anger. I'll say some anger. How did you miss that? How do you not let this girl go to a birthday party because she's too hyper? Those kinds of things. The anger came with writing the letter also. It wasn't all just perfectly healing at all. It was sadness. There was a lot of grief in that. I felt frustrated. Wow, how much time was wasted. Had somebody knew that I had this neurodevelopment disorder earlier, would it have shifted the entire trajectory of my life? Sure. So that annoyed me. I got into reality and I said, okay, Jen, 52, where are you now? Not too shabby. It's okay. I can't go back and change it.
Yeah.
But it brought about anger. It brought about grief. It brought about frustration. It even brought about my inability to speak, to be loud, to have those skills, to be safe in my own home, to say to my parents, hey, I'm struggling. When you're little, especially during that time, you don't talk back to your parents. You don't go to your parents with big problems. That's not your role. You're not allowed to do that.
What I heard you expressing was you become proud of your resilience and your bravery.
Yeah, I am. That took me a long time. I always knew that I had it, but it took me a long time to accept it. I guess have the confidence now. When you're little and you feel shame and you're rejected, it's really hard to have confidence. I know that I'm a resilient person, but to accept that felt what's like stuck up to me. Acknowledging that I had worth and that I was good, that even felt bad. Oh, am I allowed to feel good about myself? Yeah, it was heavy. The letter opened up a lot of things.
Were you motivated to write the letter just for yourself, or did you have a motivation that tied into being part of the book and hopes for the book itself?
Here's the thing. I found you. You didn't find me. I was instantly hooked and I took a dive into what you had going on. And I was all in. This is speaking to me. The universe is sending me messages. I was like, okay, challenge yourself, Jen. Maybe it's time to tell your story. Maybe it's time. I was directly affected by the very thing that your project is working on, which is I was not diagnosed when I should have been. And I struggled my whole life. If I can help somebody with that, if I can say, hey, parents, listen to your children, watch the signs, pay attention, I am fully on board. When you asked me to do it, I was a little uncomfortable. I won't lie. I was like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. But this is an opportunity. Sometimes we don't go and necessarily look for them. I built my entire life trying to help people that have neurodevelopmental brains. That's my work. If I can help in any way, that's great.
Where you are now, what advice would you give a young girl with ADHD that's just learning about it?
I instantly would tell her that your brain is beautiful, because that's my thing. That's what I tell people. And they look at me like, what do you mean? Up until that point, they've been told, sit down, be quiet, you're too loud, focus more, all the shame stuff, right? I do a little psychoeducation on their age level. I explain what's happening in their brain and what it is that they need and how come people don't understand when they misbehave, that it's not misbehaving, it's something that's dysregulated. There's a lot of psychoeducation that goes into helping little girls because they don't always separate themselves from that stigma of it's bad or I'm a bad kid. I can't focus, therefore that makes me bad. I don't do well in school, therefore that makes me bad. No, you have a brain that is wired differently. Your parents need to get involved, and I will help you create an environment that is suited to your beautiful brain so that you can be successful. That's what I do. I tell adults that, but in an adult way.
So you work with adults and children?
Yep. Yeah, I've been doing it since 2007. Yeah, long time. Yeah, long time. Primarily, it started off with adolescents, and then I started working with adults. And little kids, not so much. There's a lot of metaphors and things like that. So that's not necessarily my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
But like late elementary school, middle school, teenagers, they're like my favorite population because they're grossly honest. You get what you get with a teenager. I'm teaching all of my clients, whether they have ADHD or not, to separate themselves from the labels, from the diagnosis. See it objectively. Don't define yourself by any of it. It's more difficult to work with the symptoms of your disorder if you're defining yourself by it and using I statements like, I'm anxious, I'm this, I'm that. Actually, you're not. You're just affected by this, and we're going to separate it so that you can see it objectively. I have them draw their anxiety because ADHD and anxiety go hand in hand. When you have the ADHD and you can't meet a deadline or you forget something, a fear grows. You might get in trouble because you didn't do A, B, and C. What I have the little kids do is draw their anxiety so that they can separate themselves from it. They draw like anxiety monsters and they label them. Oh. And when they experience anxiety, they're able to pick up the paper and look at that drawing and go, not today. I'm eating dinner right now. Not today. They can go tangibly separate it from themselves and put it on the table and examine it later. I do that with adults and they love it. It's so simple. It's a little elementary, but it works because it's tangible. When we got stuff going on in our brains, especially anxiety that you can't see, you have to create a way that's tangible for people. I also teach them that sometimes the wiring in your brain is actually a survival mechanism. It's there to help you. That blows their mind. They're like, what do you mean? It's recognizing something in the environment and it's trying to dictate your behavior, but sometimes that behavior trips you up and gets you in trouble. What is happening in my body? What is happening in my brain? What type of age-appropriate coping skills can I use to get through this? These conversations are not in isolation. Especially with the little ones, parents are included in these conversations. The work needs to continue in the home, outside of the therapy space, and parents need to be involved. If you're going to send your kid to therapy or any type of ADHD coaching, be involved. That's the biggest thing that I would say as far as helping young girls heal.
The parents have a big role to play.
Oh, caretakers, guardians, grandparents, everybody has a role, sure. We can't expect these little girls to do it themselves. That's too much. They need help. It is being able to participate with that child when they need help and not necessarily see it as they're being bad. Don't look at it as they have such bad behavior. No, their brains are just operating on a different level, and it's your job to learn how their brain is working so you can remind them that they're still awesome and that they're having a bad day.
That's what we hope. Parents will read these stories and realize the importance of early diagnosis.
Oh, I know it's hard. You look at the world today and everybody's busy. Parents that are working 2, 3 jobs and shuffling kids off to school. And sometimes they miss it. They miss it. I talk to a lot of parents that look back and go, gosh, if I had only known when they were little, if I was calm enough to see it. But a lot of people are on autopilot these days. It makes it much more difficult. But hopefully through a project like this and people reading this book, that awareness will make them pause for a second when they see their kid exhibiting a certain behavior or they hear their child is experiencing a certain behavior at school. They can pause and say, wait a minute, maybe I need to examine this a little bit further.
Thank you for your time, Jennifer. Thank you for your letter.
Absolutely. Thank you for allowing me to participate, Cynthia. It was so nice to meet you.